So, it's Turkey Day. You don't have anything ready. Nothing prepared. All your relatives are gonna look at you and be like, this shit again? So, if you want to avoid that, here are 4 easy side dishes that are sure to round out any meal and be just as delicious as the big meals, the big entrees of the day. So, let's get right down to business.
To begin, we visit the old classic, mashed potatoes. Take 2 pounds of potatoes and submerge them in cold water. You're gonna need a pretty big pot for this one, so be prepared. Transfer through the stove on high heat and then season heavily. You want your water to taste like the ocean here. Now once your potatoes come to a boil, leave it for another 30 to 45 minutes. The cooking time will vary based on the size and type of potato. To check for your potatoes done this, take some tongs and pull a potato out of the water and then pierce the flesh. You know your potatoes are done when a knife readily slides through the center with little to no resistance. Once your potatoes are ready, go ahead and strain them. And you don't want to cool them off. Make sure the potatoes are still hot. You need these potatoes still to be piping hot, because the potatoes, as they cool, they will become a gluey texture, especially because I used a waxy type potato. So be really careful, but also work pretty fast. Once you've peeled your potatoes, put them through a ricer so that it's much easier for you to put through a fine mesh sieve. Also scrape off all your potato bits. Now you're gonna have to put in some work here. I didn't have a proper bench scraper to be able to slide everything through the fine mesh sieve, so I used a big metal spoon, and this took quite a while, but this is very worth it. This creates a very soft, creamy texture in your mashed potatoes that is unparalleled, so make sure to put in that work. This will take you maybe about 10 to 15 minutes. And it'll look something like this. Don't worry, that's not our final end product. We have to add our milk and butter mixture. To a small pan, we're going to add 250 grams of butter and 1.5 cups of milk. And over a low heat, we're going to simmer on gently melting the butter. Then take your potato mash and put it on the stove over low heat. What we want to do is drive out any excess moisture that we might have gotten in the cooking process. Then slowly incorporate your melted butter and milk mixture into your mashed potatoes. What this will do is rehydrate our potatoes because we drove off all that excess moisture. So one of the reasons we left our skin on our potatoes was to prevent excess moisture from entering our potatoes earlier in the cooking process. If we had peeled our potatoes earlier, then our potatoes might come out a little bit watery when we decided to add our milk and butter mixture. So instead of having a creamy, smooth texture like this, you might have something watery and pretty undesirable. But this mash looks all but ready. Season to taste, and make sure you have an extra cup or 2 of milk around, because your mashed potatoes might thicken up as it cools, so you might need it to rehydrate it a little bit. But man, look how smooth and creamy this mash is. Optionally topped with a dollop of sour cream and chives. And that, my friends, is how you make the smoothest, creamiest, butteriest mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving. But how does it taste?
Rich, creamy, buttery, all the notes that you want.
Okay, Joshua Weissman, that's enough. Anyway, this is one of the best mashed potatoes I've ever had. It is such a smooth, creamy texture, and it is a perfect side dish for any Thanksgiving dinner. I'm gonna guess that this is the side dish that's not gonna be left over. Next, we're gonna move on to another Thanksgiving classic, to the beans that are green. Green bean casserole. To start off, we're making our own crispy shallots at home. So get about a pound of shallots, cut off the ends, and peel them properly. Now once you have your beautiful pound of shallots all peeled and ready to go, what you're going to do is grab a mandoline. This will greatly cut down your cooking time because it's much easier to slice shallots on a mandoline than it is for you to cut each individual shallot with a knife. And the thickness of this is going to depend on you, but it will greatly affect the cooking time if you make them much thicker. So I went to about 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick. Next, we're going to fry up these bad boys. Heat 2 cups of oil to 325 and then drop in your shallots. The cook time on these is actually very, very short, maybe about 2 to 3 minutes, so make sure to pull them out actually pretty early. Otherwise, you'll end up with burned shallots, which I did on the first few tries, so pull it out before you think they're ready. They'll continue cooking when you put them out onto the sheet tray. Also make sure to have a paper towel lined sheet ready to go because these things need to drain for a little bit. And remember to season these bad boys while they're still hot. They don't need a lot of salt, just a touch. Now we're going to place everything to the side so it cools down for about 45 minutes. But remember to keep your oil. That shallot oil is crucial. Now about 45 minutes later, place all your shallots into an airtight container. Next we're going to reserve that shallot oil for later. To another container, we're going to add all of our shallot oil and funnel it in. You really want to save this, guys. This is very, very delicious. It'll add a layer of complexity to a lot of your dishes, and it's also phenomenal to smell. So for this next step, we're going to make cream of mushroom soup as our casserole base. Go ahead and chop up a pound of mushrooms very, very fine until it looks something like this. Now this is just a personal optional add. Take another pound of mushrooms and quarter them. I just really like the flavor of mushrooms, so I decided to go ahead and do that. Now to a large pan, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of reserved shallot oil. Throw in your quartered mushrooms first and cook down until they're nice and deep golden brown. Take them out and reserve them for the side. 2 more tablespoons of oil goes into your hot pan. Then drop in your finely chopped mushrooms into the pan. What the goal of this is here is to really dehydrate these mushrooms. A lot of moisture is in mushrooms, so they need to cook out. Once they've reduced about half, throw in your other mushrooms. Reduce the heat to medium. And finally grate in 2 cloves of garlic. Once the room has filled with the aroma of the cooked garlic, go ahead and whisk in about a 1/4 cup or 30 grams of plain flour. What you're trying to do here is just cook out the raw, nutty flavor of it. So this should only take you about a minute. Once the flour has gone blonde, add in 1.5 cups of heavy cream, or in my case I use coconut cream. Remembering to whisk to get out any clumps, and then throw in 2 cups of chicken stock, continually whisking. Then throw in 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, a splash of white wine, and 2 teaspoons of lemon. Bring it up to a boil and then simmer on low heat for about 5 to 10 minutes. What you're trying to do is have a consistency between pancake batter and heavy cream. Make sure to check up on your soup and check the consistency. You still want a good soupy texture, but it shouldn't be like a chowder. And make sure to taste along the way to make sure if it needs anything. Once ready, we're going to go ahead and place it to the side and get started on our green beans. Take 2 pounds of your green beans and steam in the microwave for 5 minutes. Take a wet paper towel and place over your green beans and pretty much nuke them in the microwave. We're opting to steam them instead of blanch them here because this is actually faster. The cleanup is easier and far more nutrition and flavor is stored in the green beans and instead of the water. Now we're going to assemble everything. Into a large baking dish, you're going to throw in your 2 pounds of green beans, your crispy fried shallots, and make sure to reserve about a cup to garnish later on. Place in your cream of mushroom soup and then mix everything to incorporate. Cover your baking dish and then into the oven it goes at 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes. Bake until it becomes hot and bubbly and then top with the remaining fried shallots. Obviously this is not the entire amount in the pot, I just wanted to take out a little bit to eat. This casserole will feed about 6 to 8 people, so don't worry about the size. And don't forget to taste for seasoning and season appropriately with salt and black pepper. So on a taste test, this green bean casserole is savory, full of umami, perfectly balanced, and actually pretty healthy if you don't count the fried shallots. Also, this recipe could be made completely vegan with a coconut cream. But this green bean casserole is sure to impress anybody who comes to Thanksgiving. On to roasted sweet potatoes. I opted to use a variety of 4 different sweet potatoes. I just wanted a lot of different colors on the plate, and it really does look actually really pretty. So what you're going to want to do is chop off the ends of the potatoes and then cut them into quarters. And then halfway through, forget that you forgot to peel the potatoes, so don't be like me. Peel your potatoes first. This is much harder in this position. Then slice your potatoes into evenly sized 1-inch cubes. You should have cut about 4 large sweet potatoes. Next, we're going to go ahead and work on flavor, so go ahead and cut up some bacon. I used about 8 strips of bacon here. My dad brought home the really thick kind of bacon, so you might need to use more or less depending on how much bacon you like. Then slice into 1-inch cubes and place on top of your mixing bowl with your potatoes. Then we're going to fatten this up with what is known to be one of the best culinary combinations in history. Brown butter and sage. Take a stick of butter and 2 sage stems with the leaves on, and fry until the butter has gone brown and deeply nutty and delicious. Reserve your sage leaves and then pour your butter into the mixing bowl. Oh, and throw in about 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Give it all a stir and toss to combine. Then to a parchment paper lined sheet tray, you're going to add all of your mixture on. Then realize this is incredibly crowded, so you're going to move half of it onto another sheet tray. Then transfer to an oven that's been preheated to 350 and bake for about 45 minutes. Once you pull them out, they should be about half the volume and deeply caramelized. You can use the parchment paper to your advantage here when you're transferring to a bowl. Next, you're going to hit it with a squeezed lemon because this is very fatty, so you need some acidity to cut through. Then you're going to garnish with your fried sage. I left the sage leaf whole just for appearances, but you're really going to want to smash these up and incorporate it really into your potato. This is going to bring out another depth of flavor and become so incredibly good. These are the best sweet potatoes I've ever had because of the brown butter and sage mixture. So if your potatoes come out a little bit sweet or a little bit too fatty, the sage and the lemon cut through beautifully and it becomes a symphony of flavors, and it is so good. I honestly think this was actually my favorite side dish. Last, but certainly should not be eaten least, mac and cheese. Take a box of shells and then fill it with water up until the pasta line. You really don't need a lot of water here. We're doing the easy stovetop mac and cheese method by Kenji Lopez Alt, so this is going to be really fast. Make sure to season your water just a little bit. You don't need a lot here. And then make sure to give it a couple stirs as it comes up to a boil. Now you want to boil this until all the mac and cheese has absorbed most of the water. Then you're going to throw in 16 ounces or about 1 can and 1/3 of another can into the mixture, and then you're going to bring the evaporated milk up to a boil. Once boiling, you're going to want to turn the heat down to about medium, and then you're going to throw in your shredded cheeses. I opted for smoked Gouda and sharp cheddar, but you can really use whatever cheeses you like. I opted for a 50-50 blend of sharp cheddar and Gouda. This is 8 ounces of Gouda right here. Smoked, of course, for maximum flavor. You want to throw in your hard cheeses first, so whatever's aged longer, you want to throw in first because it'll take a little bit longer to melt. So then you're going to mix to incorporate until it's all melty and gooey. Then you're going to go ahead and throw in your 8 ounces of sharp cheddar. Mix all to incorporate until it's melted and gooey like this. Then put to the side because we're going to work on our streusel topping. To start our crumb topping, what we're going to do is fry some bacon up. You really want to render out a lot of the fat here and get it nice and crispy and golden brown. Look at that. Once you're finished, you're going to want to turn off the heat and then place on a paper towel lined plate to drain, and make sure to save your bacon fat. We're not going to use it here, but you can always use it for later. Then we're going to go ahead and make a graham cracker topping. You're going to take a whole box of graham crackers and shred it into a food processor. I have a pretty small food processor, so this took me about 2 or 3 tries. Blitz all to combine. It doesn't have to be really small. You want a mixture of big and small grains. Then pour out into a mixing bowl. Blitz up your bacon. You still want relatively big pieces for this, so don't go too small. Then to your mixing bowl, you're going to add 1/4 cup of brown sugar plus 2 tablespoons white sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1/8 tablespoon of ground black pepper, 2 tablespoons of butter, and mix to finally incorporate. What you're trying to do is get enough fat into your graham cracker topping in order to incorporate it so that it kind of clumps together. Gather a small clump into your hand and squeeze it together. It should stay together. Mine didn't, so I needed to add a little bit more butter and then mix again to incorporate. And if you squeeze it, it should come together and hold it together by itself. And that's when you know when it's ready. And now assembly time. Take 8 ounces of mozzarella that you've cubed and throw it into the pot, dispersing it evenly, and then mix to incorporate. This mozzarella is optional, but it makes really stringy, gooey mac and cheese, and it's so good this way. Then take your graham cracker streusel topping and disperse it evenly over the top. Make sure to spread it out and then pat it down generously so that you have a nice crumb topping when it comes out of the oven. Then bake in your oven at 325 for about 15 to 20 minutes. Don't forget your lid. Remember to cover it, and then transfer to your oven. You want to bake until your streusel topping becomes dark brown, or until the mac and cheese is bubbling and super flowy. Oh, and in case anyone's wondering about this mac and cheese recipe, J. Kenji Lopez's Alt's method to make stovetop mac and cheese makes it super easy and super simple for anyone to make very good mac and cheese that doesn't clump and is super gooey, cheesy, and stringy. The ratio you want for this is 1 parts pasta to 1 parts evaporated milk to 1 parts cheese. If you follow those general guidelines, they don't have to be perfect, but you should come out with a pretty good end product. Now let's take all our hard work and put it into our mouths. Look how stringy and cheesy that is. Oh my god. And that, I can say for sure, is one of the best mac and cheese I've ever had. Now the graham cracker streusel topping makes it very sweet, but it has a nice balance with the smokiness of the bacon and the saltiness of the mac and cheese. This is definitely being eaten all by me. So there you have it. There's 4 easy Thanksgiving sides for you guys to try out this Thanksgiving. Each one bringing their own unique flavors and experiences to the table. So I hope some of you guys actually try this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you actually make this, feel free to hit me up on Instagram and show me what you got. Thank you, and have a happy Thanksgiving.